All right, and welcome everyone to the virtual happy hour or webinar hosted by Division 22, the Early Career Neuropsychologist Committee. We're very happy to have everyone join us live to discuss the public loan forgiveness program, as well as other options available to individuals for managing student loan, which is becoming an increasing problem in the United States, of course. There are a couple of things that I want to remind people of, and for that, I'm going to just screen share so everyone is aware. Okay. So first, I want to let everyone know that this is a loan forgiveness strategies and debt repayment webinar. You must be signed into YouTube in order to receive CE credit for this. You will have to complete a brief evaluation after the presentation. And there are two ways you can do that. You can either contact us after this at ecnpcscn@gmail.com to request the evaluation. When you do that, please list your name, email address, and professional status, whether you're a psychologist or a non-psychologist. Alternatively, you can go directly to the link https://www.surveymonkey.com/r/QDR-TTSZ and immediately complete the survey following the completion of this webinar. It will not be available for more than a day or two following this. You are also welcome to submit questions via the comments section through the webinar through YouTube itself. A couple of learning objectives: be able to explain the options available for loan repayment and forgiveness, be able to discuss the steps or qualifications necessary to apply for a public loan forgiveness program, compare the different options available, and utilize existing resources for managing student loan debt. I'll repeat this information at the end of the webinar. And that way you will have it again at that point. I will also remind you of, again, how you need to log in to get the CE information. So just as a reminder, I want to introduce our speaker, Dr. Laura Dreer. She is a tenured associate professor at the University of Alabama, Birmingham in both neuropsychology and rehabilitation psychology, and the director of psychology and neuropsychological clinical research services within the Department of Ophthalmology. So she has quite a lot on her plate. She obtained her doctorate in clinical psychology from Central Michigan University, her MA from the University of Hartford, and her undergraduate degree from Central Michigan University. She's won numerous awards and honors, including the Outstanding Service Award from the Association for the Advancement of Behavioral and Cognitive Therapies, and the Division 22 Dissertation Committee Chair and Research Mentor of Student Awardee Jillian O'Neill's Outstanding Dissertation Award. Most importantly, for the purposes of this webinar, she is a recipient of the NIH Loan Repayment Program and is here today to speak to us about the Loan Forgiveness Program. All right, so I'll let you take it away, Dr. Dreer. And we also have in the corner, we have Dr. Amanda Gooding, who is going to be fielding questions to us. All right?
All right. Hopefully you can hear me. This is new for me, first webinar, so bear with me. It's kind of cool because you can reach out to a lot of different people all at once, and hopefully if some of you out there, you have colleagues that you think, I wish they could have heard this or whatnot, they can, at the end, I'll have my email, or if any of you are interested in more information, I'm just going to give you an overview. I know it's the end of the day, we're all tired, but want to give you some information that I wish I had had and just share a little bit about my experience because it was overwhelming trying to, manage and navigate that whole process. You're trying to develop your career, get through training, and then you have to deal with loans and things, all that stuff that adds up. So, and the irony, hearing you describe it the loan repayment, and debt forgiveness programs. I mean, like we need forgiveness. It's like we sinned or something. We're trying to develop our careers and takes money to get through that. And I know some of the programs might have a kind of an array of programs out there where some are well funded and you get a lot of support, financial support. And then there's others that don't have as much and you're just trying to get through. Y'all vary. And I'm just going to kind of go through some of the steps that I took in my situation. And then again, I want you to just keep in mind that everybody's a little bit different in terms of their backgrounds, their finances, a little bit about my situation too. Before I started into it, my folks didn't go to college. So that was kind of a whole new area for me to learn about in terms of finances, how do we pay for it, loans, things like that. So it was quite a process. And I think one of the things is to really do your homework and research, talk to the financial counselors at your institution, talk to other people, and do things like this, which is great. So with that said, I'm going to start here. Bear with me while I screen share. I take my crazy looking face away out of here and show some PowerPoint slides. All right. And these two we'll get with the folks putting this on. We can get this to anybody who would like this, little cheat sheets or whatnot. Hopefully that you guys will find helpful, and as well as some links that I put on here. As we just talked about, I'm going to I know you could really go into all these different programs that are out there nowadays. I'm starting to get older now, realizing when I was doing it, there's just a couple, and now they're really starting to pop up, which is awesome. But at the same time, that can be overwhelming too, because which program's right for who, all these deadlines and whatnot. So just, try and know that this is an overview today, and then that you can kind of delve into some of these different programs and look at it, in your own time. And I'll share with you one that I went through, that next one, the National Institutes of Health, the Loan Repayment Program. And then understand some other options too for if you don't get it right away. Some of these loan forgiveness programs, they're, it's like try until you succeed. It's like grants, publications. You guys know the drills. It's all about jumping through hoops. And just keeping in mind you'll get there one way or another. And even if you don't get some of these loan forgiveness programs, there's other ways to save some of the money and pay off those debts, so that you can still have a life too and enjoy the career that you chose. So let's jump right in here. So I share with you a little bit about my context. I don't know how I got pretty decent money management skills, but I think the one thing my folks reinforced on me was to save, and I wasn't actually really even that interested in it. Hit me with going into neuropsychology and rehab psychology in high school, just in terms of doing some volunteer work. And I knew right away that was my passion and I wanted to go and pursue that. And my folks were very supportive of it. They said, we'll help you out as much as we can with college, but you're going to have to really think ahead if you want this and save for grad school and everything that goes with it. I think they thought I wouldn't do it, but I started working, got multiple jobs during high school, started banking away, like just, a little bit of my paycheck, but also did, used it for some fun stuff and things. And then also tried to make myself, get that experience with jobs, paying for things financially, but then also volunteer to get into grad school, some positions that weren't paid, just to get that experience. So every little bit saved, birthday money, all that stuff. Somebody dropped a dollar bill, one of my brothers, I saved it, it's right there to find money. And then I also sought out, as I progressed and got into grad school, sought out research assistantships. One of my programs, we didn't have as much that I think some other programs now, even here at UAB, that they have. So there's some that you might luck out and get that paid for your whole way through, others that have partially paid programs, and then others that I know that a lot of people go into a lot of debt for. So just keep that in mind, how much you're willing to invest. That was another thing when considering grad schools. I don't know if we have people in undergrad or grad or what, probably graduates now, but that was one of the things in terms of considering not only for what grad school to go to, how much they would pay, how much it would cost in that location, but also internships. There were some that were offered quite a bit, and then there were some that really didn't offer a lot, but then you're working with top people you want to train under. These are all things that I just had to balance and kind of weigh how much more debt did I want to go into if I took a position in California versus Alabama or other places. So, those are some things that I kind of struggled with and went through, and just always it would help talking with others who had been through that situation, and then also researching. So I saved up a lot. I thought was a lot. Of course, I was younger then until I got offers of where to get into, I realized I'm going to need more money. I looked around and couldn't find any trees where money grew from that people talked about. It just wasn't out there. I tried the lottery, didn't win Powerball or any other thing. And then, of course, I had to consider other options to pay for higher education. Then, as I mentioned, fellowships, internships, and whatnot. So I looked into it, researched a couple different options. I think the biggest thing, too, was talking with the financial aid counselors. As I mentioned from the beginning, or if some of you are just joining, my folks didn't go through the college experience. They kind of lucked out when you didn't really, some of those things weren't as required. You could have a good career and whatnot. But they were very supportive. And that was one of the things, from day one, just talking with those financial aid counselors, how much will this cost? And how do other students get through that process? And it was kind of reassuring just knowing, there are others out there too in similar circumstances. And then let's see here. So, and as I mentioned, I'm just like, really, saved money, put it away, but also, spent some money as well, just getting through school. But I think the biggest thing was the realization, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to take up a loan. So talked with people about that, and ended up doing it. Sat down with a counselor, financial aid counselor, and we went through how much I would take out, what did certain loans mean, the interest, when I would have to pay them back, and what types of things to look for. So that was really helpful for me. And also, I pursued, there were some through the school of business, different programs, or even in the community where they do financial management classes or some tips. You also see some things on like CNN, Susie Orman, and they do have some good basic things that sound basic, but everyone, like I said, is different, and it gets tempting. Some of those things you see, or you compare yourself to your peers, and they're going out and having a good time, but everybody's different, and some were married and they had two incomes, so there's some things just had to sit down and really develop my own budget. But I also think an important thing to keep in mind was not to stop living. You want to go out and do things. Your quality of life is that, you're kind of trying to refuel yourself at the end of the week for studying, going through and getting, the goals in your career, whether that's...
Yeah. Can I interrupt you for 1 second and ask you to expand your slides just a little bit so they're a little more visible on the screen?
Expand them. Yes.
Yeah. So at the bottom there.
Mm-hmm.
The corner of it.
The corner. This one?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we.
A little further.
It's at 99%.
Just drag it, I think.
Okay. Like that. Or no?
That's fine. Yeah, let's just do that. Thank you.
Can you see it? It just looks weird.
Now it's actually worse. Sorry, I just
right.
I was trying to get it to enlarge on the whole screen. So
I know. I tried. Let me just try this again. Can you see it that way?
Now we see you.
You see me? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell I didn't walk away. Was that a test to make sure it's really me?
No, you're doing great.
All right. Let me toggle it back. Bear with me. Let's try this.
Sometimes if you just drag it along the corner, you can try it. I know we've tried it in presentation mode before, and that's worked too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's getting smaller.
So the bottom, that little, that one closest to the magnification, if you hit that one, that should do it.
Okay. Looks like that's as much as it's going.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just make them available afterwards.
Is that somewhat there? Right there?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll let you, yeah.
Okay. It's at 121%.
So that second, the one by the little squares, that should get it to the presenter mode.
Okay.
That one.
This one? Not that one. That's me again. Hold on. I think I see what you're saying. This one. That one?
No, the one over from that.
Okay, that one goes back to that. But you said you can't see me, or you can see me only.
Now we see you.
Okay. That's what happens when you do that.
Sorry, we made it worse. Go back to what you were doing. You were doing great.
Oh, man, I jumped to the end here. Hold on a second. Let's go back. This is like a cruel neuropsych joke you guys are playing.
Yeah. I'm a neuropsychologist and rehabilitation psychologist. All right.
Okay. And if you can, well, obviously I'll tell people these will be available. So I apologize if you can't. These are a little difficult to see, but I will try and also talk you through it too. Since we work in ophthalmology, I'm used to describing what's on the slide, and also, like, don't worry, I'll shoot these out as an email so you guys all have it availability. So good news, I learned there are loan forgiveness programs to pay back loans. So just like Jerry Maguire, show me the money. I kind of screamed that. I was like, what? There's programs available to pay back loans? That's awesome. Sign me up. So that was like a little bit of a relief. So to fast forward, I'm finished the internship, did 1 year of a neuropsych fellowship at Duke, and then, I was getting a little bit further into debt, and then came down to Alabama, and then I knew I'd take another 2 years because I really missed the medical rehab psychology part of it. And I knew there were mentors in place that would really elevate me to that next level for an independent career in research, and clinical research, really. So with that said, I knew I had to take probably a little bit more loans. Or actually, I didn't take them out, I guess, that second fellowship, but I had them deferred while I was doing this because I was on a T32 grant. And so I heard about these programs that were starting to pop up. Like I said, there's more and more that are becoming available that you all might qualify for, depending on your backgrounds. And so I kind of started exploring it. Now, at the time, knowing I wanted to go into clinical research, one of the fits that was natural and some of my colleagues started applying for was that National Institutes of Health loan repayment program, which I'll talk about in just a minute, but wanted to make you guys aware too. And I know this is probably more difficult to see, but when you get the slides, you can make these out and you can pop onto the websites. It's over to the right column, but there are lots of options for loan repayment programs. So I know a lot of you and some of my own students ask me, what if I don't want to go into research like you did? Or, what if I want to do more clinical or teaching? Or, just practice. There's a lot of different types of loan forgiveness programs out there that you can qualify for. Some have different commitments. That first one, National Health Service Corps, that's up to $170,000 they'll pay back, but that's 2 to 5 year commitment. So that's one thing you'd kind of want to, pop around and play with and look at if you qualify for some of these. That next one down is Faculty Loan Repayment Program. That's up to $40,000 and it's 2 year commitment. And that's teaching in a graduate program in behavioral or mental health. So, and some of these are kind of, loosely defined. You just kind of have to look into them and their qualifications. The good news is don't be afraid. That's the thing where it can be overwhelming. When I was looking, there was just really the loan repayment program. I think it might have been actually in its second or third year. So it was a little scary, but not that many people knew about it at the time. So kind of had that luck on my side. Now there's more, so there's more to choose from, but there's also more to sift through, especially when you guys, probably many of you are thinking about, you're in different phases of your careers where I've got enough to do. I'm trying to get through internship or I'm trying to apply for fellowships. Now I got to look into loan repayment, that it is a lot to balance, and it does get frustrating. You're taking your whole weekend or, it's like, where does this end? So just kind of do it in chunks and talk with other people. Your colleagues really probably have some good information, your mentors as well. And to identify which one best fits your career goals, your loans, your time commitment you're willing to put in and what you're eligible for too. So let me bounce down here. There's, is that one? That might be the same one again. Actually, I'm glad I am looking at this. But there's another one with a couple more forgiveness programs that I'll switch this one out before I send it out to you guys. But just wanted to give you an idea that there's a lot out there. So there's some options. I want to kind of focus now on just my experience with NIH and their loan repayment program. This one, as mentioned, came to my attention just talking with colleagues, and I would go, like many of you probably do, in either your graduate program or your internship or your fellowship programs. I talked to mentors. I went to grand rounds, in psychiatry. I went to neurology. I went to physical medicine and rehab. Probably like many of you, since you're rehab and neuro, and you meet other people and you talk to other people, and I think that's when I first learned a fellow that I was working with, he had just gotten this. He had applied for it. And I said, what is that? And he said, oh, it's paying your loans off, essentially, up to $35,000 per year, depending on the debt level. They kind of look at your loans that you've taken out, and they, prorate it to what they pay off you get one contract, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in detail. It's a 2-year initial contract with competitive renewals, as long as you're making progress. And essentially all the different NIH institutes and the centers fund up to around 1,600 researchers each year, which that's pretty good. Success rate is 50%, and that kind of varies year to year. And the good news is, unlike grants or other things, you can keep reapplying, and if it's not a good fit, but I'm going to walk you through some tools to enhance your chances to be up there in the top tier to get it into being a good fit. And I think sometimes, it's just there's a lot of applicants applying that cycle. Other times it might be that, the research strategy that you propose or your career development goals were different from the institute. Maybe they weren't in line with what you submitted it for. And that's why it's so important to have a mentor or somebody who's been through this process review it. And I will say now I'm on the side where I review them. So any applications, reviewed a couple of different loan repayment programs in the past. And now I'm on the other side, which is so much better, looking and weeding out. So, and you can really tell a difference. I think one of the things that does strike me, and knowing what I had to go through and to get me there, was good mentorship, a program, a research program kind of thought out, and a clear path and good letters of recommendation that you're going to, hopefully be successful in clinical research. And that link right there is right to the homepage. You can even just Google LRP NIH and it'll pop up. And it's very user-friendly. If we have some time, I'll walk you through that. It's super user-friendly. It's so much better than when I applied. The purpose of these programs, they're kind of set out by Congress, and they're designed to recruit and retain highly qualified health professionals, essentially, into biomedical or biobehavioral research careers. And we as neuropsychologists, rehab psychologists, we're a good fit for this. And they want to help out those early stage investigators, or blossoming into early stage investigators, to really start their career without having to worry so much about that debt. Because like I said, it can interfere with, your quality of life. And we want to get researchers into the field that are going to be, focused on their careers and not so much with the debt that they have. And, as long as they're making, good progress and in accomplishing goals and research, they're going to reward you for that and renew, your contract if you get it. So again, taking that financial pressure off of early stage investigators. Let's see here. So you may be asking already, what are these types of programs? So there's essentially 5. Clinical research, and if you go on the website, you can kind of read more information. Didn't want to bog you down by too much detail here, but clinical research, it is what it is, helping people, anything with human subjects. For example, my research looks at helping, like, designing and developing interventions to help people with adjustment across different disabilities. And so that would apply right there. There's also clinical research for individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds. One of my good friends got one from there. Pediatric research, health disparities, and then contraception and infertility research. I'm not sure why, they select these certain fields. I think there's sometimes, understudied areas or necessary and needed areas. But, if you look at some of those, you might find a pretty good fit for your research, or it might change your research for, in terms of a new area. So biggest thing, the first step, before you even start doing all the work, is determine if you're eligible. And, some of the key things are the citizenship, U.S. citizen, U.S. national, permanent resident of the U.S. by the award start date. And I know that applies to a lot of folks that are in from other countries. So like just check that in your status. Qualifying degrees, obviously the PhD is in there. There's others too on the website. There's so many to list, but I just figured I'd stop it at there. MD, PhD, PharmD, and whatnot.
Would a PsyD still count as well?
Actually, that's a good question. We'll have to look that one up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because I know a lot of the programs, that is one where some of them aren't as typically covered, but yes, actually I'm gonna write that down. That's a great question. Okay, we'll look that up before we end. And then qualified educational debt. So total qualified educational debt equal to or in excess of 20% of your institutional base salary at the time of the award. So that can be kind of tricky. That's why you want to start that conversation early. I think when I first got down here, for example, to UAB, I just heard about it, and I was in my first year looking into it. And so it worked, because the next year I was just on a fellowship salary. And then at the same time, I was applying for a K award, which was a 5-year award that, I talked with my mentor, and then, they had said, they were going to invest in me and keep me on board. Sometimes you talk to them, some will put you at assistant faculty level or make you an offer, or some might, say you're doing well in your fellowship. We'll bring you on as instructor and then bump you to assistant faculty once you get a K award or different things. But so those are conversations to have early on, where you're at and whatnot. And you can change too. So it's not to say you can't leave somewhere or, your salary can't jump up or whatnot, but they just kind of adjust it. So let's see here. And then that excludes income if you have another job, if you have time to have another job or something. I didn't, but let's see, must agree to conduct only research So then qualified research, and you have to engage in at least 20 hours per week during each quarterly service period of your LRP award. So we'll talk a little bit about, that gets verified by your employer. They want to make sure that they're giving the money to an environment, an institution that's going to really help you get your career goals accomplished, and that you have a mentor who's pretty well known at, I would recommend being well known at NIH or in research, because as I mentioned, when I'm reviewing them now, we look for, that person has a track record. They've got R1s or R20, at NIH, they've been successful. The odds are they're hopefully going to be likely to bring on another trainee on board and get them along that path as well. And they try to filter these out to the institute that is a good fit with your research. So mine, just to share with you, mine was looking at helping people with, in low vision rehab, adjust the vision loss. So I kind of went in a different way that many people don't, through National Eye Institute. So, I called first too, and I'll get on to probably another slide here, but calling and making sure, is this a good fit? I told them what I'm doing. I thought maybe they'd be like, no, we want discoveries to cure eye diseases, or, they really hadn't actually heard a whole lot or funded a lot with psychologists. So it actually was a good fit. So having that call, it kind of made me stand out in a good way. So if you make that call ahead of time and talk with NIH, they can really help you. They know you guys are, early stage, or even if you're established on this webinar and you're trying to get your loans paid off, you just found out about this, you can still jump in and get, these types of programs or awards. So, how to apply. That link, again, even if you just Google LRP and NIH, it'll pop up to the homepage. You want to look at all those 5 different programs, which one best fits your interest and your area of research you want to go into, clinical research. And then you want to talk to that loan repayment liaison about a potential application and a fit for which potential institute. And you also could even switch these two. They're not really in order, but identify a research supervisor and mentor and discuss your career plans and how they fit in your organization where you want to potentially stay at, or at least get started in, and their support for you. I think it's key there, because whatever mentor or supervisor you get, you want to make sure they're kind of well known at NIH too. It just kind of enhances that fit. And I will say it's a small world, so they do know a lot of the senior investigators. I'm still not.
Can I jump in and ask a question while we're on this?
Mm-hmm.
Who would be the appropriate contact person at NIH? Do you know who that would be, or how you get their information?
Yes, that's coming up in a slide. Great question. I swear we didn't prepare these questions.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's coming up, and there's a information center and a contact number for the loan repayment program.
And I have another question from a viewer wondering, do NIH training grants such as F-31s increase your chances of obtaining loan repayment?
That's a great question. I'm gonna go from that in my experience. That's a perfect question. The F grants are kind of fellowship, a focused research project, which is great. Congrats to that person. That's good. I think it does kind of help give you a little bit of an edge. If I saw that, I would think, hey, they already put forth a research proposal. It got accepted at NIH. It was reviewed favorably and was awarded. That's one little step towards becoming independent. Versus maybe somebody who doesn't have it. But that said, maybe that person had 1 or 2 research publications and the person who didn't have that had 10, and they're in the process of doing that. So, you kind of weigh those things as you review it and look at it. It's kind of like grad school applications and whatnot. But if that person's with, a good mentor for the F grant or T32, I was on a T32 grant. So that was granted to my institution in medical rehab psychology. And essentially the funding went to the institution to give out to bring in trainees that had potential or wanted to go into clinical research in rehab psychology or neuropsychology. And so that kind of helped too, I think. I went in with a T32 and that showed, that was a step I took towards getting, that goal to become an independent researcher, clinical researcher. So hopefully that answers it, but it does help. Yes. Let's see, research supervisor. Oh yeah. So if you do get this, and you are awarded, you're going to have your research supervisor. They just don't give you the money and you run with it. You'll be tracked and traced and followed, but you'll be accountable essentially. You got to make progress just like a grant. And if you do run into barriers, getting a project going or whatnot, you just have to explain it, and justify your plan, what happened, plan, and how you're moving it forward or whatnot. So it's preparing you to start thinking about research and explaining, your work and being accountable. And the research supervisor will submit it quarterly. They have to verify your work and that you did the 20 hours. It can't be. It's good because they're making sure that you guys don't get pulled too by, we all feel that pressure to do 50 million things, but you're only there so many hours per week. So it's holding them accountable too, that you have that designated time for research because they are investing in you. So if you kind of look through, you're eligible. This looks like something you want to pursue. You've got an idea of some research supervisors or mentors, and you talk with them, and they're like, "Yeah, you should apply for that. We want to like invest in you, and we'll keep you. Here's what we can do." And you could then you go on to the LRP portal, and then you register and create a login, and from there, which is right now, it's open. September 1, it opened. It closes November 15th. Always check those dates and deadlines. You never know if they change, but they're pretty strict with them and tight.
And is that a rolling deadline, or is it a consideration given to if you get your application in earlier?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, I think they just keep it open, and then the 15th, once they get them all, they kind of decide which institute is best for which application and whatnot. So you've got time. There's still plenty, even though we're at the 18th. You can look at it, go through it. Because it was September 1. I remember I moved here to Alabama. I know you're going to say 2003. I'll say it. Throw it out there. That's how old. And then, I was adjusting, moved in, didn't know people and just getting used to a mentor down here where things were at. I had to, get your ID and all those things. And I know some of you are same thing with internship, or you're starting to think about fellowships, and this just got thrown at you. But it's not too difficult of a process. And it's doable. Like, I think, especially if you have some good record keeping, and don't get discouraged if you don't think like, oh, this cycle won't apply. I'll wait till next year, because you can do that too. You're not going to get it'll just work out if you have a better application. So you got to make that judgment. But the success rate, like I said, it's 50 or 40 for new applicants, a little bit higher for renewals, actually probably higher than that. If you're making good progress, they'll renew it. You can apply, there's no endless amount, and you can apply whatever stage you're in. If you switch kind of careers, went clinical to research, you ended up doing a fellowship, and just kind of depends on your situation. I would just stress, read the application materials very carefully, go through them, highlight them. There were two of us that when I went through it, we went to a coffee shop on the weekend. We kind of highlighted something and we were getting it together. It's good to do the buddy. It's like losing weight or something. Get a partner that you can do it with and apply, and it kind of motivates you. And making sure the first thing, because you can always do yours. I'm like this. I can do my things a little bit later, and I know how much time I can get it done. But other people, you don't know, it's like your dissertation and publications or applications for grad school. You got to rely on other people in sources. So you might want to crank those, get those out first after you go through and identify what you need, like your loan information. That took me a little bit of time to get. I did have that information, but I had consolidated my loans at one point, and I just needed a letter showing that. So it just took a little bit back and forth. It's not difficult, but it was like some of my earlier loans. I think that it was just a little bit, I was like, wow, I'm glad I'm doing this now than later. Because you can always refine your personal statement up until the last minute, so not that I would encourage that, but I'm just saying, like, get these other things in your letters from your mentors. Some of that too, they're going to be like me now, like, can you put an outline together, or can you write it and I'll tweak it, and or something like that. So you may have to do that. And then enough time so you can have others proofread it. You'd be surprised too, like you can get a lot of different perspectives in terms of what you put together. And don't be afraid to apply. I say that because I've had some of my colleagues, even now, we're many years out, I guess, from with grad school, or some that are MDs, and they have a lot of debt. And I'd see them a year later, so I'm like, hey, did you ever apply? Or like, let me write you a letter. And they're like, no, I just didn't have the time. I'm like, come on, you can do it. I was trying to motivate them. I'm like, if you don't apply, you won't get it, and so it can be overwhelming, but just give it a chance and look at it.
And is there a word count limit on the personal statement, or a length that you recommend not going beyond?
Yeah, good question. Can you see ahead of my slides? You're doing good with these questions. Yes, there is, actually. Let's move on here. Here we go. What's the next slide? Some things to consider. And many of you probably have these down, but sometimes talk with others and they, like, I forgot to do my CV, or keep it updated. Or, if you've never done a bio sketch before for NIH, that might be something new to you. So that's going to set you back. It's 5 pages, but, getting it out and laid out in the format they want and thinking it through. They've changed now from what they were a couple years back. That's just a process, and they do require NIH bio sketch format. And that's going to have your education and training components, as well as research and grants. And don't be afraid to, if you're early on and you don't have a lot, they don't expect that. So just be reassured. You might get examples from your mentor and be like, whoa, there's no way I'm going to qualify, but they are not comparing you to that level. So you'll need essentially the research activities. That's about 8 pages. That's the limit. So that's a good thing. You don't have to go over that. And you could include references in that too. Just getting it, and this forces you to be really concise. That's hard for me. I still struggle with this. I'm wordy. So it does force you to really think about your potential research, what you've done, up to date to get you to, clinical research you've been involved with, where you think you are right now at that moment in time. And then, another page of where you want it to go with it. Like for me, I said I did medical rehab, psychology. I came down, I did a second fellowship because I wanted to expand on my research track record and pursue that towards becoming an independent clinical researcher in an academic setting. And I said, and now I'm also expanding on that and applying it to low vision rehab, which is a new understudied area for me, and how I can apply the skills I've had to that field. So it just kind of lay out like your past, where you are currently, finishing up fellowship or changing your career, and then like where you see yourself kind of going. And then another section is research accomplishments. That's for renewals. That's about 2 pages, what you did in the past year. Kind of list out your publications or presentations, things like that. And then your career development plan. That's for independent researchers. It's 2 pages. And training and mentoring plan for mentored researchers. So if you have a mentor on your loan repayment, talk about like how you're going to interact with it, regular meetings, weekly meetings, didactics, different things, how you're going to grant writing, things like that they want to see you learning to become an independent researcher. And then that biosketch, the NIH biosketch, there's examples of that too on the NIH website. Or if you just Google NIH biosketches examples, there's some out there. And then personal statement, that's like 1 page. That one's hard too, like describing yourself on 1 page with especially a focus for clinical research. When they say personal statement, they definitely want to know more of your passion and interest in research. So I think, what led you there and where you kind of want to go with that. Tips to consider. And again, this was a tough one, like establishing timelines for yourself. You have so many other responsibilities, whether it's grad school or internships and you're writing reports, seeing patients or whatnot. Sit down. I did it. I planned on the weekends to do it, chunk by chunk. Because I had to get the other things done, reports and whatnot first. Always ask, what really helped me was asking others who's received this type of program or others that you're going to apply for, if they're willing to share their personal statements as examples. They may even have some, I didn't Google it, but you can find everything now like that way, and seeing, what are some examples, calling the loan repayment center, and that link there, that's on the loan repayment page, but it's, contact Engage. They have a lot of great resources, and you can call there to talk about, where you're at, what you're thinking about doing, and who might be a good fit for you to talk to in terms of that institute. And keeping documentation of your loans, I can't stress that one enough. Although everything is pretty much online, you can probably get it quickly. Employment verification, that's another thing you'll need. Just think about that. It does take time. That's why I kind of put that on there. Sounds easy, but be surprised. And then following instructions, things like formatting. It sounds simple, but page limits, going over it, not saving the right file names, and then it's some other file that can really ding you and weed you out. So keep that in mind.
Have you personally, now that you're on the other side of it, have you weeded people out based on page limits or font or other kind of formatting issues?
I mean, I haven't thought, oh, this is, not Times New Roman, I'm going to kick this one out. I mean, if I've looked at it, and usually if there's it's several things, it's like they just didn't follow the instructions or their mentor didn't. It kind of shows you you start to look at it and what it could imply. Like, did the mentor look at it? Are they just getting something out? They didn't manage their time right. You get so many other grants, and if they're well written, that could be an easy one to kick out, and it does make you question, well, are they like that with their data and, other things that they're trying to balance, in terms of their research. So I personally, most of them have been pretty good since I've done it, but I have heard other colleagues say that. And then another thing too, being polite. I know some of these sound straightforward, but when you request information from your mentor, from this university, from the loans, or from the borrowing agencies, that's the best way you're going to get things quicker, is if you're nice. And they may be overwhelmed on their side as well. And keeping these timelines in line, because they're probably getting it from a lot of people. Again, these are some simple tips for the competitive loan repayment application. Again, you really just, it's like sales. That's the one thing you want to sell yourself, your research, and why it's important and innovative, how it'll extend on either your mentors or what's out there in terms of the research. The resources too, like, beef up, and a lot of times you have to describe the environment that's going to support you becoming independent, and that they have the resources there, especially if you have a certain type of equipment you need for whatever project you're doing, or the patient population, that you have access to that population. Those are important things. And the strong research plan. That's why that mentor is important, to get in there and review it. And they would, that's where I assume, I'm like, okay, hopefully they've looked at it and they've given some feedback on the structure and things like that, and strong letters of recommendation. Here's kind of a screenshot of like the loan, or the NIH loan repayment program. This is under one of the tabs, but kind of gives you, I like it because it's a application process interactive roadmap. So know the deadline. You can click on each of those, which one to apply for, and it just pops you right in. It's very user friendly. If you qualify, you will need it. It's a ERA Commons ID, and that's also through NIH. That's where you'll upload it. And it's pretty easy to get, but and then there's some website resources there that can further help you. And this kind of goes down the whole page there, but again, you can kind of walk yourself through this. And then how long, I think my loan repayment paid off my loans in, I think that took 4 years. So each year it renewed. I got the 2-year contract, and then they gave an additional 2 or 3 years. Whoops. And then here's this next slide, is just kind of tracking where it's at once it's submitted. If you haven't submitted a grant, this was the first time I submitted anything to NIH, so it's kind of cool and fun to watch, and scary. Everyone's like, when will you know? I'm like, apparently in a long time. Like, it's not fast, but I just kept checking, logging in every day. My mentor's like, stop doing that. You're going to go nuts from doing that. It's like logging in to see, about a paper publication. So they're like, they'll tell you, you'll get feedback. And so it is neat though, like looking at it, it walks you through that review process, what to expect and how funding decisions are made. And then that last one's important too, your responsibilities. Like you're gonna have to report, they just don't give you money free, and they give it quarterly in case, you might, it's not unheard of too. Like you might get halfway through and you're like, I really didn't want to pursue a career in research. It's just not for me. I don't like this. It's like a game, I want to get out. And, some people make that decision. Like it's not worth getting this loan repayment to do another 3 years to get it paid off. Especially, other things in mind with families, or I've had some friends, like they had aging parents they had to take care of, or, a lot of different things pop up, or they just lost interest in research. So they do it quarterly, and those are some things to think about too. You're not like bound, but you may have to give it up, or there might be a penalty. I would look into that though. Other things too for just general strategy. So maybe that one's not for you. You think like, I'm not 20% research. I don't want to do that. That's crazy. But, there's those other loan forgiveness programs. And then there's other strategies. Some of these things they'll tell you anything, like financial management 101, roommates that can cut your bills. I kind of wish I had roommates still, like you can still save a lot that way, paying off loans and debts with the highest interest first, And, think about things that you're going to buy. Do you need it? Do you want it? Like, which, do you want to pay off some things first? Keeping good financial documentation is always good. And like I said, it's always good to go to a financial counselor. Some of them can be expensive. You go to a private one, or at your institution. There's a lot of good people we have here, like, for example, at UAB, for our benefits, and they give good advice. It can kind of be scary sometimes, but when you get to the point of saving and then investing for your retirement and all that, these are some general things I think to keep in mind that while you're going wherever you are at this process. And I've got friends to date are still paying off debt. Try to just keep in mind one day at a time. What we tell our patients, keep focus on your career and goals, even when you're getting tired. Like, you're doing good work. You're doing the best you can. You've gotten this far. And, try to use those kind of reframing strategies to challenge your own thoughts. I got into it where some friends were going out in that social comparison. They're doing things, or they're buying houses, and I was not even ready for that. So those are some things, like, this is what you're doing, and your friends and family that really care about you are going to realize that, and hopefully understand. And then also know too, like, if you are applying for one of those programs, you can always reapply. And you can also get other jobs on the side too. That's why I put ad space for sale, get creative. Like, maybe you have something on the side that, I had a friend teaching like tennis on the side. It was a good stress reliever. They saved a little money, charged a little, and then, it kind of benefited them with finances and then quality of life. But keep in mind too, eventually those loans will be paid off, maybe when you're 80, but that's okay. We love what we do, hopefully. And that's it. I'm going to stop it there and open up for questions.
Great. Unfortunately, we only have time for one or two.
Okay.
And then again, I will provide the CE information again so that you can fill that out. And I know a lot of people have asked about the slides, and we will provide those. There may be a delay of a day or two just to make sure that we're not confusing people who have applied for CE for this. So the question I think people are going to be interested in is, were there any hiccups along the way or things that you didn't anticipate?
Yes, good question. In terms of the loan repayment program, or just finances or debt?
The loan repayment program specifically.
I think, I really tried to go through it. Like, I reread it, reread it. And I started plugging in. I think it's still this way where you can start, like, I put in personal statement. It's like uploading a Word document, a PDF, and then it saves it in there. And then you can always replace it, and go back in until that deadline, until you hit submit. You have to verify and submit it yourself. I think, like, some of the things with the borrowing agencies just had, like, the promissory note. I didn't know where I had that. I thought I was pretty good at keeping everything. And, it was before probably you could download it as easily. Now I think it's quicker from what I've heard from more recent people applying. But some of those things, and your mentors, some mentors want 3 weeks a heads up. Some are fine, in a week or so. But I think those were some of the key things. And just, I would start early on so you can really, I had to flesh it out, just in terms of my research plan and strategy.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go over the information again, just so that everyone has that. And then, unfortunately, we're going to have to stop off. But again, I want to thank you, Dr. Dreer, and I also want to thank Dr. Amanda Gooding-Weingarten and Dr. Katie Block, who have been monitoring this to see who's logged in, as well as to see who has questions. Mm-hmm. So let me just, that in mind, let me just share mine. All right, hopefully everyone can see this. Again, the CE information, you had to have been signed into YouTube. This will be available to all participants after the seminar is over in another minute. We will request that you complete a brief evaluation after the presentation. You have to contact us via email at ecnpc.scn@gmail.com to request the evaluation. List your name, email, address, and professional status, psychologist versus a non-psychologist. Alternatively, go directly to https://www.surveymonkey.com/r/QDRTTSC and complete the survey immediately following the completion of this webinar.
And can I jump in one real quick thing?
Yes.
I just double checked for that question about the PsyD. And they definitely qualify.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So PsyDs definitely should apply.
Okay. Well, you hear that, everyone. And then finally, I just want to encourage everyone, of course, special thanks to Division 22 Rehabilitation Psychology for sponsoring the CE credit. And I want to let everyone know that if you're not already a member of the Early Career Neuropsychologist Committee and you are a neuropsychologist within 10 years of graduation, we encourage you to join now. And I've included the link here. It's scn40.org/becoming-early-career.html. And we also encourage individuals interested in early career neuropsychology to complete the following very brief survey, which I'm not going to spell out because it is quite long. You can hopefully see it on the screen. All right, and with that, we are going to end our broadcast in just a second. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and especially thank you to Dr. Dreer. That was excellent, very informative, and I think we all learned a lot.
Sure, and anybody's free to contact me too if you have more follow. I love talking to people about it and hopefully demystifying the process and encouraging to apply for it. So,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.